Okay, so the recording should be starting now. There's the transcript going on as well, so it should be good. Welcome everyone to another session of the MS Excel Toronto Meetup group. Today we will have Gaëtan Mourmant with us presenting about some of his favorite last learned techniques in Excel. We are curious to see what he's bringing to us, but before that I have a couple of announcements to share with you. Well, we are using Teams. I believe everyone is aware and knows how to use the tool, but just a reminder, you can use the chat if you want to ask questions or make comments during the session. Gaëtan, we forgot to ask you, do you prefer to get interrupted during the session or at the end with questions?
I'm going to present 8 sections, so we can do interruption at the end of each section.
Okay, sounds good. So if you have questions, we will wait until that moment to ask your questions. And be mindful that we are recording the session and that the video will be posted on our YouTube channel. Feel free to follow the channel, but those of you who are here, who registered for the session, will also receive an email in a couple of days telling you, here's the link for the session, here's the link for any materials that Gaëtan may share with us, and a couple more other links. So keep an eye on your inbox, okay? So there you go. We can then turn our cameras off. Sometimes it helps with the bandwidth. I usually keep my camera on because it helps making company to the presenter. Myself as a presenter, I hate talking to the wall. So it's always nice to see a few faces, even if you want to keep your camera on. There's always only a couple of non-shy people. So I don't mind if a couple of you keep your cameras on, because it just helps us, and especially the presenter, feel more welcome and have some kind of interaction and reaction to what is happening during the session. If you have any trouble, the technique is the oldest one. The troubleshoot technique is the oldest one in the IT world. Is just turn off and then come back. Turn on again. That's the way to solve things with Teams, especially if you are having troubles with chat or anything like that, okay? And the recording will be in our YouTube channel. I don't have the next sessions available yet for you. I can tell you that we have a couple of things lined up for September and October, but they are not totally confirmed yet in terms of the topics. But during August, we will do a summer break, okay? So I hope you all enjoy. My training session, my training program about automation, Excel reports automation. I have a very special price going on. It's the lowest price I ever offered in the training. So if you want to take advantage of that, it will be up for a couple of days. Feel free to, or for a limited time, I haven't decided yet, feel free to take a look. This PowerPoint presentation will go with Gaëtan's files as well when I send out the email. So you can check it then as well if it's still available. These are the sessions announced for other meetup groups for the month of July. Feel free to take a snapshot as well and see what else you can take advantage of. There's great content always. Fantastic presentations. We can learn so much from this, and it's just a privilege to have the opportunity to learn from the experts around the world. And there's Carlos there. Nice to see you. Just presented today, I can see there in the list. I hope it went well. Yeah, and that's it. We have my newsletter as well. If you are interested in keeping up with everything new that is going on with Excel, new features, improvements, Excel events, new Excel books, I try to include as much as possible information there. Sometimes it ends up being a long newsletter, but you can just take for you whatever you find interesting for you. And it goes out only once a month, so it doesn't bother you too many times. But that's why when it comes, sometimes it is a long list of things to go through. But everything about what's new in Excel and events and all that. So feel free to take a look. There's the link there where you can subscribe. And Solving Excel is my consulting company sponsoring this meetup group. And enough talking. Now we have Gaëtan Mourmant with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to read what I have here, the bio that he provided, and then Gaëtan can fill in the blanks to complete with any other information. Before I do that, I can tell you that I connected with Gaëtan very recently, in fact, through LinkedIn. We had communicated before, but just connected more frequently recently, started chatting more frequently recently. And I find Gaëtan a person of many talents and very generous with his talents, his skills, and his time. So thank you so much for being with us today and for preparing this session, especially for us. I know it is the first time you are presenting about this topic, and I also know the work it takes and the time and the dedication it takes to prepare something to present. So it's a privilege to any of us to be able to have the opportunity to learn from you and all the other experts that we have been having, because everyone comes as a volunteer. This is a free work that we all offer to the community. So we say here, Gaëtan Mourmant is a Microsoft MVP. And by the way, just renewed MVP. Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
In Excel since 2021. And he has been teaching advanced Excel and VBA courses for years, both in academia and in the corporate world. Gaëtan has co-developed and implemented over 100 Excel applications, including the recent Form Excel Pro that you can find on his contact information, the link to check that, nicknamed the one-click user form. He holds a PhD in Management Information Systems from the University of Paris Dauphine, or Paris Dauphine, I would say.
Paris Dauphine is very good.
Yeah, Paris Dauphine. I have to train my French accent here. And Georgia State University. Besides Excel, Gaëtan's research interests cover meditation, classic ground theory, and entrepreneurial decision making. I told you. This guy is a very interesting person and a lot of different skills. Gaëtan, thank you so much for being here. A special welcome as well to all the French speakers, new members of the group who came because they learned from Gaëtan about the meetup group. I know this is a meetup that runs a little bit late for your schedule because you are on the other side of the ocean. But I hope you can take advantage of the meetup content, even if just recorded. If anyone registering for the sessions, a couple of days after the session, we send to people who registered an email with all the materials, so you can watch the recording later if it's not convenient enough for you to be with us live, although we do appreciate everyone coming live. Okay, Gaëtan, thank you so much. Excited to have you here. And the floor is yours. Let us know what else did I forgot to say about you, and let's see what you have for us today.
Thank you. Well, it's always a great pleasure and a lot of stress to come to this meeting. So excuse me in advance if there's some bugs or if I forget a comma or a one at the end of a VLOOKUP. I hope I won't know that. So if I speak too fast or if I go too fast, please tell me in the chat, slow down, please. I know that's something I need to control, so please let me know. You can always come back to the recording, but it's nice if I go to a speed that is great for everybody. So that will be my biggest challenge today. So let me share my screen, see if everything is working here. Okay. So, and I also want, of course, to give a big thank you to Celia for organizing and to, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name properly.
My name?
Grain, thank you.
Grania, yeah.
Grania, okay. And we're going to talk about next-gen Excel. The idea was to see what are the tools that we're going to need or use in the next, I would say 2 months, or maybe 3 months or 6 months, and see what we can do with that. So I will go from relatively easy to more and more interesting. And so try to keep up with me. Hopefully I won't be too fast again. So one of the things that I want to talk about is the fun and the inspiration that I have when I'm learning about Excel. So as MVP, we have some maybe snippets of things that are coming up. Quite frankly, if you're an insider and you keep up with the insider and the flow of information, you are up to date quite quickly as well. But that's really what I'd like to share and share this enthusiasm that I have for what's coming up. So a few shortcuts for the future. As you know, Excel is becoming richer and richer and richer. And there is a shortcut here that I learned from one of my students. And then at last, during a meetup with Celia and Eric, it reminded me of the Alt Q for question. So if you have a question in Excel, you can always do that. So one of the things that I always forget where it is. So for example, I type T123, shortcut for a table, Control T. So I think in English you call that a T table. Now, one of the things I always forget is how do I resize to the left? Because it's always tricky to resize to the left. So what I'm going to do is use the Alt Q, and then I'm going to just type resize, and I have a resize list coming up. The great thing is I don't need to type the entirety of everything I want to do, but somehow there is some AI embedded into it where if I type resize and I'm here, it seems that it recognizes that I want to resize a list, which is great. If I'm here and I say resize, I've not tested it. Now you see that I have a different information coming up. Whoa, so Excel is analyzing where I am when I'm typing, and then will propose the right question. So already we're using AI here. I'm pretty sure there are some pretty advanced algorithms that are doing this type of thing in the background. Is it AI, machine learning? I don't know, because I don't know if they're learning at the same time, but I'm pretty sure this is coming from a lot of study from Microsoft. Good, so Alt Q, I want to resize, great, that's what I want to do, and then I can resize easily. Perfect. So this one, I believe Alt Q will be more and more useful because it will be more and more easy to use. Okay, so number one. The second one, which I love, is Control-Shift-V. It's not for the future really, but if you don't know about it, I encourage you to test it. Very simple, 1 + 2, okay, Control-C, Control-Shift-V, and then instead of the formula, I now have 3. I think this one is becoming more and more well-known, but if you don't know it, I strongly encourage you to have a look. Okay, so in the future of Excel, and even now, we have seen the emergence of the let function. The let function allows you to write programs within Excel. Okay, what I mean by program is that I mean we can use variables that we name. So I can name the variable x, (1, y, 2, and then I do x + y. I'm not going to do the entire thing, but that's pretty much what we do here. The great thing is we have this. Now, one of the issues of those formulas is that they very quickly become impossible to read. So we use Alt-Enter, which is not new, but very useful. And then it starts to be easier to read. But when I press F2, it's, yeah, okay. And if I go in the bar, not there. So what I can do is Control-Shift-U, and it will automatically expand this thing. If I do it again, Control-Shift-U, So you see how quickly this is? So I go from a formula that is the formula bar that is hidden to the formula bar that is fully expanded. Because we're going to use the formula bar a lot when we use this type of complex formula, I really think it's the tool for the future and it's a shortcut we really need to know. Another one, which is Control F2. So F2, you probably know, it's going to edit. Now, Control F2, and I learned that recently, will shift from the formula bar. And you see here that I have my little kind of more in black, kind of a bold around. I don't know how you say that in English, but the width of this is stronger or larger. And if I press Control F2 again, I go back to here. So it's a back and forth between those two places. Very, very interesting and very useful in terms of speeding the time of writing complex formula. So those, I think, are going to be more and more useful. The last shortcut I wanted to talk about is the Control F3. This is the Lambda editor. Sorry, it's not the Lambda editor. I went one step further. It's going to bring the name manager. And the name manager, names have come from a very, very, well, you can do so many things with names. This is just an amazing tool. You can create with VBA a series of names for specific ranges and divide the time of calculation because it's like creating an index. Of course, you can use name to create a lambda. You can use name to refer to a table or a specific column, and etc., etc. And you can embed a formula into names. So, and names can be at the level of the workbook or at the level of a specific worksheet. So name seems to be, okay, I just go there, I type a name. No, it's going way, way further than that. With the dynamic array, name can also refer to a dynamic array. So just a quick trick here. Let's say I do equal this. I'm creating a dynamic array. For those of you who have not used that, it's going to expand, spill the data. And then from here, I can type -3, then I press the pound, and it will automatically select. Okay, so even this thing exists with the pound. So the pound sign, which allow you to select a dynamic array, works as well here, and it works as well when you create a name, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. So we're going to talk about those a little bit later because I'm going to use the name quite a lot. The advanced formula editor is becoming better and better. It's in Excel Labs. You have to install it. I think it's on not Automate, Developer, one of those two, and then you can open it. It's really, really useful when you want to create and manage your formulas, complex formulas, lambdas, and etc. I'm not going to talk about it because we could talk about it for 1 hour, but I just want to mention that. The only trick is don't forget to save. So every time I use it, every time I make the mental mistake of why my formula is not updated, because I forgot to save. So it's like coming back to Excel 2003, maybe, where you have to constantly save. That's the same here for the advanced formula environment. For good reason, I don't want it to save whenever I'm working on it, but that's something to keep in mind. Great. No more dangerous F9. This one is my favorite of all. You know F9, so if I type 1 + 2 here, if I select this and I press F9, it's going to calculate, but then I lose the interactivity. So if I put 1, 2, small formula plus this one, okay, now I want to control this thing. How can I calculate that? I usually press F9, it's going to do that. And then it's super dangerous because if I press enter, I'm killing the formula and my entire workbook is not going to recalculate. And worse than that, that would be a very subtle error. It's going to be very, very, very difficult to find. It's one of the first things I teach my students when they start to create some formulas. Watch out for the F9. After F9, always press escape. Do not validate the formula. Be very, very, very careful. But it's a very useful function. Well, now we can do much better because we can select, and then you see here, whoop, you see on the top of the selection number 3. So whatever you select is going to be calculated and show on top of the selection. and it's working quite well. Okay, so that thing is really nice from that perspective. Another thing that you can do as well, let's say equal let x, comma, I'm going to refer to this, comma, y, comma, I'm going to refer to this, and now x plus y, and I press enter. Now, if I select x plus y, is it going to work? No, in giving me the name problem. Okay, so what can I do for that? There is a very simple one. So let's say this one, I will name it x plus y, comma, and then I'm going to type here the result. Okay. Oh, I probably made a mistake somewhere. Oh, result. Oh, sorry about that. Interesting. Okay, so I don't know why it doesn't work. I'm not going to spend some time. Let's see if I can do a simple one. X, comma 1, comma y, comma 2, comma x plus y. Okay, this is working fine. So one thing you can do is you define here x plus y, comma this one, and then here you're going to, oh yeah, because I didn't refer that. Okay, my mistake. X plus this one. Okay, rest did not exist. Okay, fine. So we've got this. Now the great thing is I can replace the last calculation, which is the duplicate of this. I don't need to put x plus y. I don't need to put this x plus y here to define and then put it back again. I don't need that as we've seen just before. But by having it at the last thing here, we can then type anything and then use it as a calculation. Okay, so now if I have something a little bit more complex, I would say this one and then I'll do x plus y times 2. That's a very bad name. That's just for the demonstration. And I will say it's x plus y times 2. And then I decide what I want at the end. I want to return this one. Okay, so now I'm returning 6. How can I calculate this? You see, if I select this, it's going to give me the name error. Okay, what you can do is to take it temporarily, or even this one would give me the name error. So I want to calculate this, Control C, and I paste here, press enter. Now I can calculate an intermediary result because I left some space at the end of my let to have some intermediary result from the equation. Okay. Okay, I hope I'm not going too fast too. Okay. Any questions so far?
I think no questions so far. If there are, just I enjoy the very first few shortcuts. I knew some of them, others were new, and even the ones I know, I keep forgetting to use them. So great reminder, because we can do a lot of things with this new stuff and I keep forgetting. Thank you.
I think they would be very useful.
Yeah.
So you may have seen it popping up recently. This is exciting for me a lot because the number of time I spend days trying to create some VBA code to bring some images, and now we can finally have some interesting tools to that. So I just want to show you. See, I'm not yet to use for Control-Shift-A. So I want to show you a few things out of the bat here that I've been playing with. First, it works on merge cell. Only for presentation, do not store anything with merge cells. I think everybody has said that in the past, but just for presentation purposes, it's interesting to know that it's working. Okay. If you like puppies, if you go in Insert, you've got all the 3D models here. I'm not going to click on that because it takes a lot of resources, but I encourage you to play with it if you want to add more animation to your Excel spreadsheet. One thing I didn't know is that you can bring some GIF as well. GIF, I think. I don't know how you say that in English, GIF. So you can bring them and they're working, which is pretty cool, I think, because you can point to something and then bring some animation, an arrow that is rotating or something that would bring this. Okay. So those are not new. The new thing is really that you can insert within a cell an image. How do you do that? Well, it's very easy. I go online, I'll take an image. You don't see my screen. I think I still have the image of Celia somewhere. Let's see. Here we go. I'm going to paste Celia somewhere. By the way, if you don't know that, Windows V, that shows the shortcuts and everything I've been copy pasting in the past. Okay, if you don't use that, it's also one of those life-changing shortcuts. It's so embedded in me that I did it without thinking, but yeah. So let's do an example of using this here. So it's very, very simple. You copy this, and then you're going to click this one, and it's going to place it in the cell. Boom. That's it. And now I have Celia in this cell, which of course I can increase. And this is Celia. If I refer to the cell, I have Celia again. Sounds good? Okay, let's see if I can do something else. Let me take, just a second, doing something. Here we go. So Control Windows Shift S, and then I can copy paste a face. I'm sorry, Grainer is not the greatest one. But you're on video as well, so it's fine. And I can paste it here, okay? Or not. Let's take the little doggy. So Windows Shift S, going to allow me to draw here something, and then I paste. Okay, I could remove the border at some point, and I click here, and then my dogs is here. If I press equal to this, I have the doggy coming up. Okay. Amazingly, this works as well with dynamic array, spill dynamic array. So if I do something like equal this, shift, and I select all this, enter, boom. So this is pretty impressive, and I'm really, really impressed with the way they put it, because you can feel that they really put a lot of thoughts into this. Thank God, because I've been waiting for that for 25 years. But it's great that it's finally here. So it's like AI. It's great that it's finally here. Okay, so on images, you can do a lot more, and I just want to show you a few things. So this is a list of images that I put into a small database. I asked ChatGPT to generate a list of the building names, and I asked ChatGPT to create also a list of Google search, Google image search, so that I can find the name. So if I click here, it's going to open a Google search like this, directly with the name embedded. And I didn't program that at all. I just asked ChatGPT to do it. I can show you the prompt somewhere if I find it quickly. It's probably with Toronto. Anyway, so I ask, my prompt was simple. I say, create a table with Toronto most famous building, add a link to the image. He did not understand the first time, which is always the case. So if you use AI, you usually have to refine the prompt. But okay, I need the explicit URL. And then I realized that those URL were not working because it says the URL does not work. It should have been working in the sense that if Wikipedia has done a good job, we should have an image of this black and white.jpg. But this is an hallucination in the sense that AI invented something that should have existed in reality. So I love to use AI this way. But of course, you have to be very careful because it could be very creative. Now, I say, okay, add a URL to search for the building name in Google Image. And then from here, boom. Now I'm coming here, and now I have all my images. Okay, and then I copy pasted the images. There's probably a way to avoid the copy pasted of the images, but there are some encryption here because Google doesn't want us to scrap their data too easily, I believe. But beside that, very quickly, in just a couple of minutes, I was able to have a Google image search for all of them. And you can do the same with Bing. So this could be a really, really interesting for creating sets. So I've got this. Now I copy the image from directly where I was. So it's going to be something like this. If I can do this, so I copy the link of the image in French. And this is the CN Tower. I like this one, but I prefer this one. So I'm going to replace that, Control V and that. And so sometimes you need more luck. I'm going to copy another link. Okay. Control-Shift-U, that's a big thing. Control-A, Control-V. Let's see if it's working. Here we go. So what I did here is sometimes a link is a link to the direct image. Sometimes it's kind of a weird link that Excel cannot read. But once we have this, we can use this new formula, which is image. And I really want to talk about it because it's going to save you a lot of time. So as long as you have an image URL, you can refer to that image here. Okay. Now, where it starts to be interesting is that you see here I have also an image, but this one, it's named picture here. So the name here is, there is no formula in it, it's just the picture. Okay. So what happens is you can copy this and then Control-Shift-V, and it's going to copy paste, interestingly enough. Yeah, I have some, let me show everything first. Okay, different. Here you go. So I had some filter issues. So I'm going to copy this, Control-Shift-V, and it's going to copy paste within the cell. Okay, so now I don't have, and I did this here as well. I copy paste this into this column, and now I have everything inside the cell. So it's not anymore an image that is related to a link. It's directly the image that has been pasted in.
So I guess we can say that the image in cell functionality, the new one, it's working as copy as values from the image function almost, right?
Correct.
So
that's
if you
exactly
have the function, yeah, when you copy and paste, it's pasting as values, it will place the image in the, yeah, that's very interesting.
So you've got the image here. Okay, now if I copy this, Control-C, Control-L.
There you have the formula, yeah.
I crash Excel. And I knew before doing it. That's okay. So here you've got real proof that Excel is not bulletproof for that. This one should work. It was saved 3 minutes ago, thank God. And then I don't have my macro, of course, because it's a saved version. So let's save this. So you see exactly what happens when you start to play around with the new functionality of Excel. There are some crashes that are happening, but
have you noticed anything about the size of the files when you use images in Excel?
I haven't done a specific test. I know using those 3D things is increasing a lot. That's something that is really painful. I haven't done extensive tests for that, so I wouldn't be able to comment on it. So let's see if I can reopen that. And of course, it's not there. Just 1 second. Okay. Okay, and I enable. So I'm not going to paste to another workbook. Oh, this one open, so let's try. So here I pasted and it referred to the image, but the file. So interestingly, it kept the file. And if I copy paste in value, probably have to repaste it. So Control-C, V, that's it. And also, I believe it's referring to the line where I'm in, so it's not line number 5. That's why that's probably line number 5 is this one. Okay, it's just like any formula, it's going to put the formula based on the cell where I was. Okay, so you see here by copy pasting in value somewhere else, I got the image directly. One word of caution here. So you can, this button is really magical. So I can place it on top, or I can bring it back here. The way it's bringing back the image is based on the corner. So the left corner here is where the image is going to go. Okay, so it's something to remember. Now, one tricky thing, and I will stop on that for that specific part of the image. If I have a very, very important data here, okay, and I bring this one on top, I bring this here, I click here, boom, and I bring it back. Hey, where's my data? You deleted it, you stupid thing. So be extremely careful where this thing is.
If you do undo, does it go back?
Yes, but
Okay.
you have to remember to undo, because sometimes you're not going to see that.
You may not notice, yes.
Yeah, so like, yeah. So something to keep in mind just in case. Okay. Another cool thing as well. And I'm going to start to introduce more advanced function a little bit. So you may have noticed something here, which is filter or not. So this is one of the way to use filter, which I love, is the filter function. So I'm putting the subtotal here, and the subtotal, which is here, if I type equal that, okay, and let's say I want to hide Casaloma. Let's see if it's going to work. Now this one has 0. Why 0? Because it's filtered. The line number 3, the row number 3, is not visible anymore. Therefore, the subtotal of this, which is working only on visible cells, and Carlos and I had a discussion on the exact meaning of this, but I'm not going to spend time on that. You can watch the video that we had. There are some subtle way of using 3 and 103. I'm just going to use 3 for now. And it's hidden. Now, if I bring it back, let's go. It's now 1 because it is visible. Okay, this is super cool because if I insert a slicer for example, visited or not visited here, press OK. Now, if I click on not visited, all of this will be, this shouldn't be here. I'm just going to remove that. All of those will be at 1, and the rest that are hidden are at 0. Therefore, I can use a filter on this table and bring the information, which is what I've done here. And that filter is super easy. The name of the table with the image function and filter or not. And you see that the filter is working on the building name, but also on the image. So a filter based on a table can also work with the image stored in the table. And I find that amazing. Okay for everyone? So if I click visited, it's going to update. If I click not visited, it's going to update. If I click all of them, I see this. The image are also working with a pivot table. So I just created a pivot table here. You can see that this is a pivot table, and I can also apply the same thing. Okay, and if I want the name of it, building name, I'm going to bring the building name. I have my building name here, not visited, and I have them here as well. So we've got 2 options depending on what you want to do. Sometimes a pivot table is useful, sometimes it's not useful, and you just want the list. You can do both with this technique. Any questions? Okay, let's move on. Slicer and dates. So we're going to go with something a little bit similar. So this one I've done a couple of weeks ago. First, I would like you to say and tell me, do you like this tool? Who is using this tool and who will like it? Please say I love it, or please say so-so, or please say I don't like it. Maybe you can write that into the chat.
The date slicer
Yeah.
rule that you have at the top.
Yeah, so let's say you
I use it sometimes.
So let me quickly there. If you are here on the table, you can create a pivot table, which I have done here. Because all this is date, then from there, I can right click and choose a timeline. Okay, chronology is a French name, that would be timeline here. Now, what I found is it's really difficult to use. Okay, so some people like it, some people don't. Okay, good. So I find it difficult to use because if I want to go to a specific day, I have to move back and forth. So what I suggest is we look at a different alternative. And this is what I suggest that we create in a couple of minutes. We've got this, this, and this. And because there are slicer, I have this. And now I have my list that appear here. Once I have this list, I can use this list and match it to anything I want using an index, using a match, sorry, X match, for example. So let's see how this is working. And I also can do something like this. I don't remember how I saw it. Maybe Celia, you talk about something like this, or it was someone else, I don't remember, of having a checkbox that will say if you can select or not. So if I have a checkbox checked, I can choose to have it selected or not. Okay, so this is one way to do it. And I'm bringing everything with a filter. Based on what we've just seen before, we're going to build on that. So there's a little bit of, let's show the table dates. So I have a table date, and that worksheet is only and only and only for the date, not for anything else. I don't put anything to the right, nothing to the down, because I don't want to mess anything. The problem is if I put something here and for some reason there's a filtering, this will mess up the thing. So let's bring this up. I'm just going to remove all filters. So now I have all the filters, and my table date is quite long. Okay, that was fast to make because it's just three formula here, your payments, and there's here just a sequence. To do it, sequence the row, let's say 100, comma, the column, 1 column, and I start with, let's say, this date, step 1, which is fine. And once I put this in long date, interestingly enough. Okay, just a quick trick as we go. And so once I build that, I copy paste here, and then I have my table ready to go. So here I've used the same trick with subtotal. I can use 103 or 3, that will be the same. Now it's very easy. I'm just going to insert a slicer. That slicer will be for, yes?
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you just show people, because some of the people may not be familiar with the subtotal function. Can you just explain what the parameter 103 is?
Yeah, so when you type it, you're going to have the list here of function that you can use. Mm-hmm. Okay. There is a slight difference depending on how the rows have been hidden. So I know for slicer like this, 3 and 103 are going to work, but there are specific difference when you hide them by hand, if I'm not mistaken, but Carlos could confirm that at some point. I don't remember the exact explanation. So if you have a 3 here, or if you have 103 here, it's the same. And I'm going to count A, something that I know is there. The date will always be there. So I'm going to count the date. When the row is hidden, it will return 0. Okay, so for example, if I press enter, I'll do something similar as earlier. If I type equal this, okay, that's my filter, press enter, I have 1. If I hide the first one, so I hide 2020, press OK, now it's 0.
Because that parameter has to do with the visibility of the row, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you. The subtotal has to do with the visibility of the row, and that's a big trick.
I think another function is the aggregate function.
Correct. Yeah.
Has similar parameters and possibly more parameters than subtotal because it was created later. But I think there's another possibility to use for those tricks. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So once we have this table design, and we can now insert the slicer, year, month, day, press OK. Now I have my slicers. If I press this one, and this one, then it will do this. The rest here is at 0. Okay. And now I just need to filter for this information. I'm going to do it now for pedagogical reason, but really I don't want to do it here. I'm going to take the array. So I want to return the date. I want to have the entire column control space. If you don't know control space, I use it all the time. You could also try to find this thing on top here, press 2 times, but control space is super useful in terms of shortcuts. So click here, control space, boom, table to date. If I press control space another time, I will include this one more time, include the entire column. So very, very useful. Control space once, comma, and here I want to return a 1 or a 0. You remember that the second argument of filter will be an array of true, false, or 0, 1, or 1, 0, true for 1. Therefore, I have a series of 1 and 0, so I can use it directly. Press enter, and I have my date here. Okay, if I format as a date, that should be working, and it should be the same date here. Okay, so it's in French, but that's the same date, trust me. Now, if I take a second day, or 3 days, and I'm going to also format as date, you see that there is the exact same one. And they don't need to be in order. Okay for everyone? Once you have that, you can go back to classic formulas in Excel and bring the information back to a table. Okay, I'm not going to go much further than that, but I think it's giving you a great trick here to then create your own filter. Something to remember as well, you could also do it with the dates here. So for example, if I add a slicer, I add a slicer, and I add a slicer, based on the pivot table, you will get the same result. And that should lead to only this. Now, I'm not sure why the data are not updating. There's something else, but you could do the same thing with a pivot table. Make sure you got year, month, and day, and then you can add those things here. What I did as well, if you don't know, in the slicer, you can choose how many columns you want to do. So I'm going to put 6. This way, I have something nice and clean. And here, same thing, I will put 10, for example. And I also have something nice and clean. And we're back to where we started. Great. Question?
I'm trying to raise my hand.
You what?
I'm trying to raise my hand. The control space shortcut is new to me, and did I understand that if you're in a formula, hit control space, it is selecting the entire column, but not the header, right?
If you're in a table, a T table.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So if I am here, I press control space, I have everything except the header. If I press control space a second time, it will select the header.
Yeah, but if I'm putting it in a formula, I'm typing the formula, like filter, you know.
I do a sum of those dates. Doesn't make any sense. Click here, control space. It works.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Great question. Thank you. Okay, so we've got something like 15 minutes before questions. So I'm going to show you a dynamic dependent list. Dependent list is, I think it's something Celia and we really like to be something I've been playing with it for a long time. And Celia proposed a solution, and I came up with another solution before she proposed. I was doing a training. I was like, oh my God, we could do that. So let's do it. And then it worked. So I just want to share that solution. There is also another solution for from Wins and also from Eric. I love the approach from Eric, but as always, you need an aspirin or 2 aspirins before you start to dig in. So take some strength, but it's a great solution as well, and maybe more universal. So let's dive into this one. I'm going to open the file, and I'm going to explain the logic behind it. Okay, so with Excel and the dynamic array formula, the spilled formulas, we now can do something which is amazing, is that we can sort this thing. And we can also choose a column based on a sort. So there are different ways to do what I'm going to do, but I just want to show you the logic of it. And if you want to redo it, you can go ahead and slow it down to reproduce. So choose column basically will choose a column based on the number that I will write here. So if I do a simple example on this, let's bring this out for now. If I do equal choose column from this array, and I choose comma 2, it will bring me the second column exactly. Okay, for everyone? Now, I could think, how can I bring in a separate column? So those two are separate here. And that's one of the way to do it. How can I bring the result of the sorting of this table into here? This is where I'm going to use this choose column. So if I decompose this one, so I'm going to save, try to launch the Excel lab, see if it's going to work. If it doesn't work, it's going to crash. No, it didn't crash. Great. So that's the Excel lab. And you see, one of the great things is it's going to automatically indent for you, bring the stuff to the next row and etc. So this is something cool. So I don't need to do it manually here. So you choose the column based on the result of the sort, and you're going to choose 2. Now, the sort, which is here, go from product type to brand. Okay, so I'm doing a sort based on the first column here. So I'm basically sorting this here, and I want to return the second column. Okay, one mistake you really don't want to do is to do, oh, I'm going to do a sort, and you don't think through, and you're going to sort this. The problem is if you sort this, it's not going to be the same as this, and this is a big mistake. Okay, so you really don't want to do that. That's the reason I sort on the first column first. And then once this is sorted, I'm going to choose the second column. Okay, for everyone? This is very tricky when you use a sort because you have to always remember, if I'm going to sort, I have to have everything in the formula sorted the same way. And when you start to build longer formula, that could be painful. Okay. So this is working fine. Let's check. Car, Honda, Hyundai, Tesla, TV, LG, Samsung. Perfect. Now, when I type car here, I would love to see, or TV or car, I want to see the drop-down menu with the information that I need. Okay, that's a dependent list box. The key to that, I'm going to go back here. The key to that is to, oh yeah, that's another thing. I'm going to use to match. Two matches and the offset. So offset formula, if you have never played with it, you're not going to understand a lot of what I'm going to explain because it's a bit tricky. If you already played in it, if you have a little bit of experience with Excel, you probably had to play with it. And the X match, which has an amazing thing, which is the last parameter here, which allow you to return the cell, but starting from the bottom. And this is where the connection made. Oh, okay, yes, we can do that. So let me do it step by step. What I want to bring here is everything for car. So I want to find the first car, the last car. Because they are sorted, I know that this is this area. So if I'm able to bring this and this, I should be able to return the range that correspond to that. So I first need to return what is the position of the first car, what is the position of the last car. Once I have that, I can use the offset to calculate this. Okay, let's do it step by step. Position of the first car in that area. So it will be equal X match. I'm looking for car into semicolon is in French, so that's why I keep making this mistake here. I'm going to press F4. It's not necessary, but it could be necessary at some point. I want an exact match, and I'm going to do a search first to last. And you see, this is where the magic is, because you can do also a last to first. So let's do the first one. First to last, bloom, bloom, bloom. What? Go. Number 1. That's the number 1 position. Now I'm going to find the last one. X match. And look this value. But this time I'm going to look 0, -1. 3. If I go from here, the third position is this one. If I go from here, the first position is this one. So if I change here for TV, going to bring me 4 and 5. TV, the first position is 1, 2, 3, 4. The last position is 5. Okay. Now the offset. So offset, Control-Shift-A. If you don't know that, I repeat, Control-Shift-A. It will show all the information of the formula. I love that because then I don't have to type the comma and I know exactly what's going on. The reference. So the reference is your starting point. The rows that will be an offset of the row down. The columns will be an offset of the columns to the right. The height is the final height that you need. The width is the final width that you need. Okay, so if I start from reference here, which would be the top of my table, number of rows I want to offset 0 row to the bottom, clear for everyone, because I want to stay there. I'm doing step by step here. I'm going to make it dynamic after. The columns 0 to the right. The height will be in that case 3, and the width 1. Okay. At the end of the day, this is what I want to return because it will bring me all the cars. Now, if I want to return Honda, Hyundai, and Tesla, of course, I just need to change the offset to the right, press 1, and I have now Honda, Hyundai, and Tesla. How can I calculate this from the information we have here when we have car here? Honda, so 0 is this one minus 1 because we want to return this one minus 1 because we offset to the bottom. It's a bit tricky here to get into this, but that's the general idea. And the 3 that we have here will be the Hyundai minus this plus 1. Okay, for everyone? Now, once we have this, we're going to replace. So Control-C, escape. I'm going here. L2, I'm going to replace. I'm going to replace. We could use a let to make it easier to read, but I'm just going to go like this. Okay, it returns the exact same thing, and it should match the formula I have here. Now that I have this, Control-C, escape, data, data validation, list, paste, OK. And then if I type TV, I don't need this anymore. Okay, so this is another way of creating a dependent list like this. Any question to this stage?
There's applauses. Silent applauses, but several of them. Yeah, it's a great formula, and it's interesting because for multiple, it can be adapted to multiple levels.
Yeah.
Without the need of building multiple helper structures as the method that I had explained in my video. In my case, I had to build to repeat the process for the second level, the third level, and this one I haven't tried it yet, but it seems that and you showed me the file before. You can just adapt the formula to using the same structure that you have without building extra sheets. So that's very nice.
Now, Daniel has a comment which is very interesting, and I've been asking the question myself. Are we using a spilled range here, or are we using something else? Because the offset is not really a spilled range per se. It returns a range, but it's not spilled as the new function in Excel, from my understanding of it. So there is something I'd love to explore more, and if you have more ideas. Because if I use a filter, which would have been the nice option, why Microsoft didn't do that? But of course, if you do a filter here, it's super fast. But the filter does not work in a data validation. And that's why we have to do all those stupid things. Not stupid,
I think that a difference, that something that might be doing the difference there is that offset returns a range. And when you are selecting a list on data validation, you are in fact indicating a range. When you have the values in a range, you go and you select the range. If you deliver or input an offset function, you are in the end offering a range as well, because offset produces a range, whereas filter does not. Filter produces a list of values, it does not offer a range also in the back. It's a little bit tricky because, for example, the same as index and VLOOKUP, they also offer ranges, produce ranges. One of the sessions we had a long time ago with Mark Proctor here, you can look for a session about ranges. It's amazing. He explains this there, and it helps understanding these concepts a little bit if you want to refer to that session.
I'd love to go to the bottom of it here. So now, if you want to adapt, I encourage you to look at the file. There is one big caution, and it's a little bit different from the file I sent you. If, for example, Samsung decide to produce some cars, then Samsung will be here, and the first one I'm going to find will be this one, and the last one will be this one. Therefore, my formula will return the entire thing here. So, and this is where Eric's solution was very smart, because on free list, he's going to combine those two together. The trick to do it is to use the, where is it? Sorry, this one. So the trick here, let me do a simple example with this one. If you have, and this is super useful in many cases, if you have two criteria, you can use the X match with those things here. So you multiply that by G25, which would be TV, multiply by this, and you multiply this one by Samsung like this. It's going to give you a series of 0. So can I see the 0? No, I can't see the 0. Oh, no, because I selected. Yeah, see, yes. So I have a series of false, 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 true, 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 which is fine. It's all my TVs. And now I match this one by the Samsung, and I only have 2 here. Okay, for everyone? So TV Samsung, I'm returning the exact thing. Because I'm multiplying those two, you see the third true here. We'll be multiplying this one by the third, the third one, which is false. So false by true, 0 by 1 equals 0. Therefore, the entirety of this will return F9, 0, 0, 1, 1. And if I do the X match of the 1, it will return the first one here, and this one will return the last one because I put -1. And then we can use the same thing as I have done before, but then you can expand it. Can we watch that part? I think it's a very powerful technique because you only do one sort here. You sort on 1, 2, 3, so you sort on the 3 columns directly. You sort first on 1, then 2, then 3. And then you apply this formula once, and then you're done. So from that perspective, I like it a lot because it's kind of cleaner in some ways. But of course, you choose the method you want. OK.
Very cool.
And I will go quite fast for the rest, and I'll take 3 more minutes a little bit after. So unpivot, repeat array, compare array, those are formulas I would love Microsoft to put in. I don't know if it already exists in the Excel voice. You can find them online with some Lambda. They have been created with Lambda working for, I believe, 2021, maybe 2019. Those would be very useful to see, okay, if I compare two array of 1110 and 110 or 111, I want to return which one is not the same. Repeat an array, it's incredible we don't have that. and pivot. So I'd love to see that. Hopefully we're going to see that very soon. Owen Price, that we invited Celia, has an amazing video on creating super complex Lambda with aggregation. And I think I'd love to see this one as well. Recursivity in Lambda. Interestingly enough, I spent a lot of time trying to understand this thing. I did a huge function for the Levenstein distance, which is a way to compare two strings of characters. And I asked the question on LinkedIn, and then we came up with 3 practical applications in total. So I believe those functions of the possibility of doing recursive function will kind of disappear gradually. So this is something to keep in mind as well. But this is interesting. Going back to AI, so I want to share some of my experience with AI here and open the floor to discussion and question around AI. So I wanted to do something simple. I want to I have a group 1 and group, they say this is group 1A and this is group 1A1. And I want to write the code so that if I click on a button, or at least I have a function that will hide anything starting with group 1, and then let's say this one is named group 2, and I'm going to hide anything starting with group 2. Okay, so the slicer are pretty difficult object to master in VBA because there is a slicer cache and then the slicer itself. And I find it a very interesting example of when you need to be careful when you use the ChatGPT for doing this. It's even more complex because you have the name, you have the caption, and you have also the name to use in formula. So a slicer look, okay, that's easy. No, it's super complex as an object in Excel. And so every time I asked ChatGPT to help me, it did not succeed because it started to either hallucinate or not understanding what was really going on. So let's see, I think it's this one here. Write VBA code to show and hide passive variable slicer that starts with the string group 1. And then he gave me that. And if you have learned a little bit of this, you will know that this will not work. And so I started to adapt it completely for my own purposes. Here it does not understand. You want to make some visible items. So the parent of the slicer. There was a lot of mess around that. So that's one of the issues with AI. Also, I really like it because it can give you a very good head start. So right now I have to do a project in Python. If you start to ask ChatGPT for Python code, it's going to give you a lot. And so this is something that I use it for. And I would like you to write maybe in the chat, how do you use Excel and AI? So as a general question for you, and we can engage a debate. And how could AI and Excel be in service of the earth and humanity? And it's just big question, but also small practical question. When I say Excel, including VBA, etc. So I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes and try to absorb those questions, and let's have a debate, and then I'm going to conclude with a few things that I'd love to share about AI. If you want to speak directly, you're very welcome as well.
Yeah, if you want to unmute, feel free to do so.
Okay, so you don't trust AI, so you don't use it. Okay, that's one way to do it.
I find it very annoying having to mark AI on its assignments. I was a teacher for a long time, and I find myself having to evaluate what the answer is, if it's right, if it's not, why it's not right, and then it annoys me having to spend time with correcting it and teaching it. In the end, and when we are teaching AI what we know, we are replacing ourselves. We keep complaining that AI is going to replace us, but we help it replacing us. It's inevitable, so never mind, but it's true.
Yeah.
But I don't like the work of having to, for example, when clients come and they want me to go through macros that someone else built, I find it very annoying. It's a very difficult work to do.
It's very difficult.
So why do I put myself doing that with AI? Why do I just prefer to build it from scratch as long as I know how to do it. I may take almost the same time, if not less sometimes. But that's just me. I'm very cranky, grumpy about the subject.
I saw a meme where you could see the coder and like three hours to think, 4 hours to code. And then on the other one, you had 0 hours to type the prompt, and then 24 hours to debug the prompt, to debug the result of the end.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Not
saying.
24 hours, but that's my experience too.
In the end, at least now, well, it depends on the complexity of your question and the type of answer you get. I've tried it a couple of times, and a couple of times I was able to, okay, I can work with this and tweak it a little bit. There you go, I have what I needed. But other times it can be quite frustrating.
So there are a lot of good questions and comments in the chat.
So I guess we can
Yeah.
read, because then the recording people will not have access to the chat.
Okay.
So Tanya says, I use Excel for building process automations, but don't use AI features because of my employer. So I tend to tune most of the info out, especially because it is no better than its data. Garbage in, garbage out, exactly. So we need to be careful and critical about what we take from AI responses. In the end, that's what I think Tanya is saying. Jeff says, I use ChatGPT every day for VBA and Power Queries. Absolutely love it. It makes a lot of mistakes, but it lets me do things I never would have dreamed of trying. So courage one, that's great. Then we have Harry saying, I think Excel will actually be one of the longest lasting languages in the AI revolution, because human readability will still be important even after the programming languages are taken over. Not sure if I understand the point. Do you understand what Harry is trying to convey? Or Harry, if you want to elaborate a little bit more, feel free to do so. Longest lasting languages because of human readability.
My understanding is we need to debug it, so we need to be able to read it as human. And that's one of the challenge. If you let the AI run everything, that you have a big black box that you don't know what's inside.
Kath, yeah, go ahead. Can I go to the next one then, Kathy?
Yeah.
Kathy says, I am just within the past month trying to give it a try for commenting my VBA code. Seems to be helpful for that, but I wouldn't trust it to write code for me. And Tanya is answering, I am not skilled enough to know when it's wrong either. Could waste a lot of time because of that. So the return on investment to me is limited, in my opinion.
Okay, excellent.
We have a question, hand up from Emer. So
yeah, sorry, it's not on the AI, but I couldn't write in the chat. I was just wondering, would we be able to get a copy of your workbook afterwards, because there's such great tips in it?
Yes.
Yeah, so we will be uploading the video to YouTube in a couple of days, and then I will send out an email to people who registered to the session with the link for the video and for the materials.
Oh,
so
awesome.
keep an
Thanks
eye
very
on your
much.
inbox. In a couple of days it should come. Yeah, you're welcome.
Brilliant, thank you.
Is there any comment on the other question about how can this be of help? And is there anything that we should be aware of? And I know the movie Oppenheimer, I think, is coming up, where they explain how the atomic bomb was created. And in fact, only a few people were conscious that we were creating an atomic bomb. And so I'm just wondering, how could we avoid that? And at the contrary, how can we lift up our service to Earth and humanity? As people think about it, there is another comment from Kathy. I actually post my code into AI and ask what it's doing. The comments get completed almost. Okay, so I'm just going to, as people think about it, I'm going to share a little bit of what I'm doing with AI. As you've seen, you can generate data and also reports. So what I love to do is to take some data. You don't even need to take the data. You take the name of the columns and you ask the AI, can you generate ideas of pivot tables? So this will be a great thing that you can try. Another one is to use the code to translate from one language to another language. So for example, VBA to OfficeScript. That would be very interesting. I've done it a couple of times and it was really nice to look at it. Watch out for hallucination, so code that is imagined or that the AI is hallucinating about. you can ask to generate several codes and analyze them. So if you don't know a topic, you can do this. So this is very interesting too. I also learned to speak with the AI. So precise instruction, code this in VBA, not in Python, not in JavaScript. Comment the code, as some people already did. Explain the code. So if you have a project that you need to work on and you're like, whoa, what is this code? You can try to feed it to the AI and see what the AI will be able to understand. People say it, and I think this is something we should keep in mind. The experts will still be needed. And I'm going to teach 80 students in a couple of months, and I don't know how I will be able to make them reach that level of expertise very fast so that they can analyze the code that will be created by the AI, because obviously we're not going to code ourselves. We're going to use the code and then start to modify it. There's a lot of interesting pedagogical topic around that. Create new Excel functions. This is a great way to do it. So for creativity, I found it very interesting, where you can ask, okay, can you tell me what are the Excel functions that are missing in Excel? And it's going to spit several ideas, and some of them are pretty cool. Automatic formula, we already see it in Excel Online. I don't have it, I cannot do a demo, but if you look on automatic formula for Excel Online, you will see some videos. You basically type equal, and then it will automatically look at what is around and start to say, okay, this is what you could, the formula you could do. Summarize verbatims into a model. I love to do that, so we can try with this. And I could do, so there are different ways to use the AI. You can also use Bing AI, and you've got different ways of playing with the criteria. And if I say, could you summarize these sentences? And it should give me a summary of those sentences here. And here you provide me with the main categories. So one of my non-Excel passion is about grounded theory, which is taking some data and creating a model or a theory based on those data. And so this was very useful because it's going to summarize what we have here. So if not, I'm not going to let the AI do the work for me. I'm going to do the work. And then at the end, I'm going to double check that I found everything that should be found, because I first want to be an expert in what has been written here before I let the AI take control. So it's more like a way to check my work. Generate data, I already said that. And also one tricky thing is that it's going to provide different results at different times, even from 1 second to the other second. So it's really tricky from that perspective. So there's some more comments here. So hopefully we have a little bit of time. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any quick example of how to make it generate data? Because I tried a couple of times and wasn't very successful. Yeah. And I guess it's the way I'm asking, maybe it's not.
So this is an example here that I was mentioning earlier. So I went through different, so for example here, I wanted to, it generated the list of building. And then I say, okay, now I want you to reorganize the building following in categories. The first answer it gave me was that. It's not bad, so it's recognized as categorized. The problem is that to use that in Excel is kind of annoying because you have to reformat. So one thing you can do at the end is to choose format as table. And this is a nicely formatted table that I can copy and then in a new workbook or in a new worksheet. Don't crash, don't crash, don't crash. Okay. I have this, and then it's coming directly from here.
I guess I mentioned table, but I didn't specifically say format as table, and that might have done the difference when I was asking.
Yeah, format as table, it's like you do always format as table in Excel, while with ChatGPT you do the same.
I need to be very specific.
So we can ask, imagine 10 new Excel functions that are not yet in Excel. They should be used in the year 2050. Organize the functions in categories and with one sentence definition. Format as a table. Okay. So this is really cool because it starts to format. It's not clear. It's not bad, but so forecast 3D, collab filter. So some of them will be pure garbage. Some of them probably already exist, and sometimes there are some really cool things. like this one. I'd love to have this directly in Excel as a function. NLP is natural language processing, so that's the parent of the LLM, the large language modeling. So we could do this. Analyze image. Oz was really not happy with the new image function because it does not analyze image. Well, once we add the analyze image cell, and then we can play with some feature that we want, and then that would be really cool. Okay, and then once I have this, I can copy that. I found that if you need to select the table, if you use this thing here, it's not going to work as well. And then I'm going back here, and then I paste.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting. I guess we can then later explore those ideas.
Yep. I think we have a lot of questions or comments in the chat. Let's see.
Yeah, so Harry explained a little bit about his point, about readability to humans in terms of financial planning and analytics work. If the calculations and the summaries and all that can be analysis might be done by AI, but it still needs to be presented to those who are making decisions. So humans, they need to understand the results. I guess that's pretty much that. And Jeff presented an example of what ChatGPT allowed him to program in VBA, a tool to extract zip files and one specific file in each zip file and get the information he needed. So very cool.
And once this is working, maybe not right now, but you can also please translate this code in JavaScript or in OfficeScript. It's going to give you a good draft of the code translated. I find it sometimes it's more accurate because it's starting from something that is working, not something that, so there is less subject to hallucination.
I do like to use AI to help me with my English because it's not my first language. And so when I write something and I want it to sound very not informal and cool and all that, that's not how my English goes. So I like to use it to help me with different ways of expressing the same ideas, but that might come across in a better, more enthusiastic or another more fun way. I like that.
I love it too, for the exact same reasons.
And so what are your views in what can Excel and AI do to help humanity? I think your question was.
Yeah. And that's more like an open question, but there was another comment. I don't think the general public understand AI and its danger mostly. Data turned into information can be powerful for inspiring change, advancement, etc. I think AI could get used to places faster because it can connect dots in our data research document that we haven't yet seen ourselves. I fully agree with that. But still us generating the content and we'll get there eventually, but AI will not get there without us. And I think it's an amazing thing that we see right now where without the data we fed for the last 20, 30, 40 years into the internet, I don't think the AI would be at the level we are right now. So in many ways, we have been feeding the beast, not just the last year, but since humanity, in fact, because all the books that have been written have been used to train the AI. So in some ways, there is a notion of common, I think it's called, I don't know in English, it's a bien commun, so it's common good, but it's something that belongs to humanity.
Common good, I guess.
Yeah. And in many ways, I see the AI as something like this. I don't know how we can do to make it work, but I think it's something we need to keep in mind. Should the use of percentage and fulfillment of AI be declared in a work? Yes, absolutely. It's mandatory for my students. It's very difficult to track.
I had a situation with my son during this past school year where he came home very upset because one of the teachers, or all the teachers, but that particular teacher was running their assignments through some kind of app to evaluate whether or not that might have been done by AI. And my son, he's an old soul. He doesn't want to do anything with AI or anything like that. And so he did do his assignment himself. Maybe he looked on Google, he did his research, but it was not AI typing anything on his behalf. And the teacher told him that his assignment produced the score of, I think, 50% chances it had been done by AI. And he was not happy about it. Because now how you convince the teacher, right? So.
Yeah. And I think you raise an interesting question, because those tools are here, I think, to last. They are not perfect. You need the level of expertise, but once you master them, and they will become better and better, I believe, they will be kind of a great productivity tool. So we need to be aware of them and to know how to use them. I think that's what I'm teaching, at least.
Well, when it is about productivity, your boss will not care who did this, you or AI. I don't care, as long as it's done and it's done correctly. On a school setting, maybe something needs to be change. If they are going this route of AI, then when a teacher is evaluating a student and AI is in the game, I guess then the dogma, the paradigma, the reasoning, how we do things needs to change, right? How we evaluate, the criteria needs to change. Not sure how, but at some point, students who use AI might get better grades or than the other ones who put the effort, and we need to decide what do we value most. Is it the effort? Is it the expertise? Is it the expertise to use the AI? What is it that we need to evaluate now?
Mm-hmm. And it's a great question. And mastering the AI requires some effort. I can tell you.
Yes, correct. It reminds me of when I was in grade 8 and teachers starting to, and we were battling math teacher, whether or not we should be allowed to use the calculator in our math tests. So, okay, and that was kind of the same thing. What does it matter that I know which calculation I need and just let the calculator get me the result and move on? Or should I really need to do the calculation on paper and get the result and waste a lot of time to get there? What is it that you want to evaluate? That I know that I need to sum instead of multiplying, or that I really need to know, or do I really need to know how to calculate, right?
Yeah.
So things are evolving, and we are in the middle of a revolution. And
my thoughts on that topic, when I had the exact same problem and fighting as well. Why do I need to learn that? In a way, the same goes with memorizing formulas, for example, or memorizing concepts, because you can find them online. Mm-hmm. However, I found that if you don't memorize them, then the depth of your thoughts is limited. But if you start to memorize them and understand them in depth, then you can go further in your thinking process. So there is something to be said about memory and mastering a concept so that you can go much further.
Yeah, we come back to what we were saying. You still need to know, to have some knowledge. Otherwise, you will not be able to evaluate the answers you get, right? You need to, at some point in the process, someone needs to evaluate if that is true or not, and if it's the correct information we need. And so there's still room for human expertise, I think, for now. We'll see where we get in the future.
Yeah, critical thinking is key. And I think that for me, the courses I'm going to teach are really going to be about critical thinking, because we're going to analyze what the AI is providing us in terms of VBA code or anything. And then we need to be critical thinker to see where are the mistakes. And that will be challenging. So in some ways, there is a place for critical thinking. On the other side, there's a place for huge laziness, because if an AI is giving me the code and it's working every time very beautifully, then I don't need to understand it. The same way as I don't need to understand how a screen works, how a mouse works, because I use them and they work. So yeah, but we need some people that are able to fix the screen or fix the mouse, and they need to understand it in depth.
And the way we think and the way our memory muscles and thinking muscles will evolve will also depend on the use of this, that we make of this technology, as it has happened in the past as well. In the example of the calculator, I could calculate square root of a number in the past. Don't ask me for that now. I don't know how to do it anymore because I don't use it, and because I don't need it. So but I understand the concept of a square root. That's enough. So I guess it's just evolving in the same type of cycle. One of the things I wonder, though, is that since AI is learning what is published online and also books and other things that are being fed into it, or to it, I wonder what will happen now that a lot of articles, and some of them are not good, are being published because they are generated by AI. So I know of websites who just put AI to work to publish, let's say, 10 blog posts a day or whatever the quantity is. And it's just garbage. You read the whole article from beginning to the end. It's talking and talking, between commas, not saying much or repeating the same thing, or it's very shallow, does not have any depth, and some of the things might be wrong. And now what happens 1 year from now is AI looking into the information that itself produced in the past and that has no value, and then producing more stuff based on that.
Oh,
so that's the problem, I think.
Yeah. And Jeff is saying I've seen some with incredible depth.
That's good too. Yeah, it's all about the prompt, I guess.
But I think it's the danger that you raise is very real, that if it feeds on itself, then it's going to create some kind of a loop that could end up very badly if some of the information is not valid. So yeah, I can see that, and I kind of understand why they disconnected it from the web into 2021. Not that everything on the web is true, but
no.
Okay,
so I guess I think you had something to show us, your one.
Oh yeah,
tool,
I always forget to advertise my own product.
Yeah, if you want to show us that, we still have maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then we need to wrap up.
So it's a short. It's a very easy app, but quite difficult to program. That's why I did it in several years, and I was not alone. I co-developed it. But let's say you have the ID, city, and country, and let's put date, and then some numbers. So you can say, why do I not use an AI to fill that? Because I would be faster here, but I can ask the AI. But let's see. You complete this table. Okay. What about the Trump? Huh? Not bad. Here we
go. Nice.
Oh, almost. How my dates? Dates looks good. I hate this format because it's prone to big mistakes, so I'm just going to do it this way. So I format as a table, like so. I'm just going to practice my own best skills. If I need to add something, I would put it on top and on the bottom. It's not necessary, but it's better. Now, of course, it's a demonstration, so it's going to crash, but I will try anyway. So it's English and French. Let's say I want to prepare my data, so I can prepare the data table. I have this thing coming up, and I want some validation based on city and country. So here I already have my data, so I just want to add the formula to this, and I can choose if I want to extract the unique record, yes. Sort the extraction, yes. Add a drop-down menu, yes. Add a key in the extraction. This is not mandatory, but I will put yes. And I want some validation. If I write the incorrect information, I want to stop, or I can have just a warning or an information. And I create the list. The list has been added. Now I have this one, and I can choose France, United Kingdom, United States. On sheet number 2, I have my list already prepared that I can use directly.
Nice.
So step number 1. Step number 2, I can do my data validation, the one that are more tricky. So here I just want some dates. I just choose the date. This, if someone knows how to do that, they just want the date. Anyway, 200. Okay, so here we go. And I can go into lock or unlocked. So when it's locked, that means that this is a primary key. When it's not locked, there is no primary key here. It's a good practice to always have a primary key. So that's why we added this. I show the user form, and I have my user form shown automatically directly without doing anything. I have London, New York, and I can choose the country. And I can choose here, if I had a very long list, I can choose, okay, give me anything started with United. And then it will give me this, and then I can choose the United States. My date is formatted as a date, 5/1/2003, and here it is. If I want, I can export as a card. It will create, not on this one. I'm just going to stop it here. You still seeing me?
Yeah.
Okay. So Excel almost crashed, so I think it's going to crash me on this one. I'm going to do. There we go. The other file is quite heavy, so it's possible that it crashed. So I'm just going to go back here. Paste that. Okay, so you've seen how to add the user form. Now, there are different settings that are available. All the buttons you can add. You can include a record filter, and you got the number of fields that you want to see per column. So if I show the user form as it is right now, there is only one column. Let's say I want to have 3 columns. That's okay. Go back, show user form. I have 3 columns here. 3 items per column, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Different research thing that I can use. Hide filter, delete, find, next. So those are classic here. The last thing I want to show in 1 minute is the possibility to hide and save the columns. So let's say you have a lot of columns. Let's say it's product info 1, and we're going to copy here. And then I have the product prices 1. It's bad design, but just for the example. And here I want to hide this, and I want to quickly go from one view to the other. So I can go in view. I'm going to save that view. So add, there we go. And we're going to add it as product price. Press OK. So it will automatically save all the information regarding the view. And I don't know why Microsoft doesn't have that, but that would be, they had something similar in the past, but it's not easy to use. And there was some bugs when I was using it. It's one of the reasons I put it back. I'm going to hide this one. Now I'm going to save this view. Boom, add. This one will be the one that I see. I think it was product info. Press OK. Okay, so now I have two views, one for the prices, one for the information. I can show the info, I can show the prices very quickly. And of course, I will save my file first because I'm going to add the VBA to the file. Make sure that I save with XLSM, by default is correct. Then I add the user form to the Excel file. If it doesn't crash, that will be good. So now this file is independent from my software and I can distribute it to my clients and they will have access to the user form as it was defined. Okay. And also, of course, in the views, I can add the views to the worksheet. Okay. 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 Now I can go product price, product info. Okay. So imagine that with hundreds of rows, super fast, and you can define what you need to do. And then from there, I can display the user form. And the user form, I'm just going to bring the settings. I'll put 10 here. So now we have a lot of fields. If I display the user form, and I will have 10 with only what is visible. So if I go back to product info and I show, now I have all my product info 1 to 10.
Very good.
There is more, but I think it gives you a good idea. The view and the user form has been added to your file. You have access to the code. So it's one of the reasons of the relatively expensive price of the product is that once you have the product, you can create as many Excel workbook that you want, and anybody can use it. So if I look at this, you have now in this book one, which is the one we have, all the code that has been put into. And you can also customize the code, which means if you have some level of understanding of VBA, I commented the first one very in depth, so that if there is a field that you want to specifically highlight, put in bold, and etc., you can do it. And that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, welcome.
Very nice session. I was happy with only the first 3 minutes with all those nice shortcuts. So if you had ended up there, your mission would have been accomplished for me. Thank you so much, Gaëtan. It was very helpful and interesting discussion. I hope it helps people. Maybe in a couple of years we can revisit the topic and see how our opinions evolve.
I think it's 6 months from now we're going to have some big surprise.
Maybe we don't need many years, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need to wait that long. Well, thank you everybody for your questions and insight. That was really nice.
Do you want to share where people can connect with you?
Say it again.
Do you want to share where people can connect with you again in case someone is interested in finding more information? But Grania is also putting the links there in the chat.
Yeah, and I will give my email in the chat as well. So if you want to, you can send me an email.
If you have a slide there, just to leave in the video, that would, I guess, no, in fact, I have it here. I can just quickly share here.
That's a good idea.
My other PowerPoint. There you go. There's some information there where people can find you.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Gaëtan. It was great. Thank you for preparing this for us. I'm going to stop the recording if there aren't any more questions. I don't think there are. So I'm going to stop the recording. And thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.